So, for the remaining part of this video, I am going to be going over the remaining stages that I went through, obviously, to get to a point that you can see now of the model. Unfortunately, for unknown reasons, the actual footage that I recorded showing the last remaining stages has disappeared. I don't know why. So I'm just going to go over a quick summary of what was done and showing you how some of the final components were made. So if we start back to the arm, in the time lapse you saw that the joint around the bottom portion of the arm was seamless to the actual hand itself. When obviously was doing this, after actually completing this part of the arm, I looked at it and I wasn't satisfied with the way it looked. So I decided to create a joint or a socket in the similar way that the shoulder does. So I first began by removing the faces between the arm. Obviously this arm is not the original, so keep that in mind, so there's wondering why there's less subdivisions. And so I began by deleting that, just leaving the extruded section of the arm, of the shoulder, sorry, and this part of the socket, and removing the entire section of the hand. So as I said, just leaving the shoulder portion with the open cavity in the mesh. From here, just undo that, I created another polygon primitive sphere. So just clicking on this icon at the top, so we head down here, you can see a new one has been created. Just move out of the way. Oh, there you are. And basically following the same process as I did show in the video. So rotating the sphere so that the ends, this vertex and this vertex, are on its sides. So if I just do so, like that, and then from here going to the input and reducing down the subdivisions to 16 on each. I'll say this is obviously equal to the number of subdivisions on the shoulder. In fact, it might even be less than 16, but for now we'll just say that. Might even be 10 subdivisions or 12 on each one. So once the sphere had been rotated, so went to my front viewport and placed it and scaled it into the position as shown on the image plane. From here I selected the top faces. Obviously on this it would be these 4 faces here. Obviously keep imagining that this sphere was fully spherical without the indentation, so like so underneath. So imagine this is the top, so selecting these 4 faces here, using the extrude tool, which I can go by going to this little icon here or going to edit mesh, extrude, setting the center point by clicking on this little power icon and pulling the thickness back by -1. Next I press the G key to repeat the last function and offsetted it by 0.5, so 0.05 like so, and then pressing the G key again and extruding out to create a flat edge. Obviously this is in the wrong position, it should be on this face here, but the method is still the same. So just literally extruding out the faces so that they are straight and not extruding in the same direction that the faces are. So Once that was done, I removed the faces on the top half of the of this new created mesh, so that it looked very similar to the shoulder, like so. So like this, so similar to that. And then I selected the edge loop around each of the exposed edges, exposed cavity, like so. Went to edit mesh and then bridge, and a new set of geometry will be connecting from here to the you know, to the hand. Prior to that, I would have had obviously needed to combine the two elements, otherwise the bridge function, the bridge tool wouldn't have connected the two edges together. And all that to do is go to object mode, selecting the message, so let's say that's the hand and that was the rest of the shoulder, and then going to mesh and then combine, and then obviously repeating what the process for, so selecting the edges and then going to the bridge tool. Within the bridge tool settings, a little dialog box will pop up, and I just added 2 subdivisions across the arm. From here, I moved on to creating the bolts, and I'll show you the process on this example sphere. So by selecting the faces around the mesh, on the ends of the mesh, so if I just do this, so obviously both sides will need to be selected, like so, and then extruding them out. So I believe both sides would go exactly the same. Yeah. So if I press the obviously the power icon and then doing the same thing, extruding them out by 0.1, you get this effect. So if I go redo that for a second, so if I show you once more, selecting the edges, going to the extrude tool, and then going using the thickness and going 0.1. From here, using the scale tool just to square off to flatten all the vertices. Next, those faces, I'll go to the vertex. Next, I can choose the vertex and the vertex, which I believe I have. Press Control, Shift, and hold down the right mouse button and go chamfer edge, and set the width to about 0.75. From here, I then set the using the multi-cut tool and added two sets of two edges to create like a square section in the middle. From here, I then went across and to create this effect. Then I selected the 2 faces in the middle, deleted those, selected the edge around it, and then going to mesh and then fill hole. Mesh and then fill hole, like so. So from here, select the face, go to extrude again, going out 0.2 for example, like so. Pressing the G key to repeat the last function, and then pressing 0.1. So it creates this sort of effect. One thing that I believe I also done was selected these edges, vertices, here to here, used the move tool, turned on the vertex snap function, and just squared off the edges, the top edges and the bottom edges of the hand, or what will be the hand. So I'll show you then. So just going up and straining them off. Next I selected the faces here and extruded once more time, and made like a L shape in the mesh. Obviously this would have been done using my image plane as a reference, but for this example, just to show you the process, it's not going to be obviously exactly the same. Finally, to create the curved edges of the claw, I selected the edges here and here, here and here, those two on the opposite side, and the two smaller edges underneath. Bear with me 1 second, like so, and then went to mesh, and then edit mesh, and then bevel. From here I set the segments to about I think it's left it about 5, and then added increased the segments to about 5 or 6, so like so. Obviously this edge is more smooth than one shown here, so I believe these bottom edges were done separately in conjunction to these. So if we just do those on their own, like so, with edit mesh and then bevel, I set these to the maximum it could possibly the highest fraction, which in this case is 1, and then obviously added the subdivisions accordingly, which in this case was 5, and obviously this creates a nice smooth circular edge like so. And obviously I repeated this on the other side as well. So from here, with obviously the shoulder, this arm and shoulder, and the hand and the claws complete, I so obviously this would be a separate component. Went to object mode, selected the object, press Ctrl D on the keyboard, used the move tool, and moved the hand and the shoulder into the desired place. More so the hand, because obviously this the duplicate will be in the same, will be a left arm, and we need a right. So now that once that was moved in its right place, simply use the rotate tool on the object at rotate that 180 degrees. To ensure obviously that's right, use the in the channel box, just set the value to 180 on the X, rotate X option. So once that was done, select all the components, so the 2 arms and the body, and then just go to mesh and then combine. Now that's all one object. To finally create the eyes, all I had to do was first go to create another polyprimitive sphere, go to my front viewport and line it up to the eye size, and obviously scale it accordingly, like so. For example, I'm just going to move that out so it's not in the way. Then I rotated the sphere so that the top vertex and the bottom vertex was facing me, so So on the front view, looking at the front viewport, so that he's facing directly here. So if we take the rotate tool and rotate it here like so, and just press 90 degrees, so it becomes so the vertex is like this. Then select the object, press Ctrl D to make a duplicate, and set the scale factor for this. Actually, apologise. So select the model again. Then I went to freeze transformation, obviously because I scaled it bigger, so it resets all the values back to its original to 1, so meaning that this has not been modified. And then go to edit, delete by type, history. So all history, and it's set as if it was a new sphere, obviously with the size and dimensions, obviously what we provide for the eyes. So obviously controlling D again to make a duplicate. There's not 2 there, just making sure, like so. Then using the scale factors on the X, Y and Z, setting them to 0.45, so that a smaller version of the sphere is made. So as you can see there's a smaller one inside. If we go to the front viewport and press the 4 key to create a wireframe, I can use the smaller sphere, the outer edge of the smaller sphere, as a guideline to create the iris for my eye. So you see this set of faces here is the most exterior of the eye of the iris it can be. So I select all them and those in conversion into the center of them. Press 5 and move that off, and select all of the faces in the center of this eye. Use the scale tool and go to my side view. There we are. Double click on the scale icon to open the tool settings, and here I need to tick off prevent negative scale, and this obviously will allow me to extrude in the to scale in the negative direction. I believe it's, yeah, obviously this won't show as of yet because there's one more step we need to do. So there you go. So that's what the sort of effect it should allow you to do. So it should allow you to go in the negative direction. So if we press the D key on the keyboard and move the center point of this selection back, so let's say to about 2 edge loops back, press the D key to select and then rescale. I don't know what's wrong. There you go, like so. You can see that those faces have been pushed back into the eye. If we go into our object mode and select the inner cube and remove that, because we will don't need it anymore, and go back to the mesh and select remove and select the faces, go to vertex and select these exterior all the vertexes around the eye. You'll see why very shortly. Yeah, that'll do. And then using the move tool, pushing those vertexes back a little more, obviously removing the snap function, and then taking only the center vertex like so, and just moving that a little bit more to create like a point. So now when you look at the eye, you can see they've got different, you know, it resembles more of an eyeball. So you have the actual eye itself, the actual colour of your eye, and obviously the black of the iris part of your eye. So from here now you can see that there's very little resolution. So I'm going to choose edge, click on this edge here and this edge here, I believe. Oh, maybe not. Sorry, this edge. This edge and this edge. Go to edit mesh and then bevel, and here we're going to add some more subdivisions to remove some of that poor resolution on the eye, like so. Fortunately it's done way too much. You can see that the incline here is quite dramatic. So all I'm going to do is select the edges and just push that back out a bit so it's not so like harsh as an indentation. So this here forms the basic premise of the eyeball. So as you can see, to create the flat edge, the flat back of the eye, I'll go to my side viewport, go to face, and remove all the back faces of the eye, possibly those two as well. So you get this sort of like cap effect. From here, I choose the edge loop, use the extrude tool, and move the eye back like so. So it creates this really flat edge, and it's in line with this. These edge loops are parallel, basically. So now that's done, I can select the edge loop again, offset this, do it by thickness, and then with that edge loop selected I can go to Windows and then fill hole. Sorry, merge to center, so it forms like this. As you can see, it's not exactly flat, so just select the vertex and ensure that the vertex snap is on. Select the vertex again and just position it so it's in line with those back edges. So the result should resemble something like this. And obviously, so that's the back portion of the eye. And finally, to create this eyelid effect around the edge, all I have to do is simply go to my face, select the faces, two sets of faces here. Let's do that again. So that, like so. And then obviously, because I have a extra section here, go from halfway across, so here, even maybe one under, and select all the faces equal to that point. So both sides should look exactly the same, like so. Then finally, use the extrude tool once again, extrude this out so it creates this. Select the faces inside like so, press G key to repeat the last function, and extrude out, and this will create like an eyelid over the eye. So the effect should be somewhat like this. From here I can select the edge, this edge loop, and use the scale tool just to scale this in ever so slightly. Use this tool here to snap that edge back so that's in line with those edges there, like so. And then using the edge tool again and scaling those in a little bit more, and that obviously that creates like an eye effect. As you can see here, there is some overlapping of the polys. This obviously didn't occur on my actual model. It's just the amount that I've probably extruded and the amount of scaling I've done on around the eye. But this is essentially the process that I went through to create this. So with that done, all that was left to do was to duplicate, so using Control D. Positioning the eye, so I would have started off with this eye in the duplicate it across, matching it up with the my template, duplicating it a second time and scaling it down to create the smaller eye. And then we have it. So that is the general process of what I did to create the final model as you see it now. Next, moving on to see the UVing and the texturing. So in the next few time lapses, you'll see the full process that I used to do that. So let's move on to the UVing.